Hey everyone, Vern here from Fixing My Faith, and today I'm sharing something deeply and personal. It's not my words, but the powerful words of two individuals who chose to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses and make that choice known to the world. Their names are Aaron and Yana, and what you're about to hear is their public disassociation letter. Now, this isn't just a goodbye. It's a breakdown of the doctrines, the policies, and the culture that pushed them and many of us out to walk away. It pushed us out. So they're going to cover a lot of the questions that you and I have had. And if you've ever struggled to find the words to explain why you left, or if you're just beginning to wake up, this letter might put into the words what you've been feeling all along. So it was published on Avoid JW by Miss Usato, who continues to give a platform to voices in this community who want to speak out, but prefer not to publish under their own names. So before we dive into it, I want to play a short clip that sets the tone for the next few minutes. Okay, so here we are. We're on Avoid JW. This is very recent news. It was just posted. And here's the article from Devout to Done, our public exit from the Jehovah's Witnesses. So there's a picture of Aaron and Yana and their little one. Our final letter, a public goodbye to the Jehovah's Witnesses. Former Jehovah's Witnesses Aaron and Yana with their children. They have 2 children there. Aaron and Yana. And this is published by Miss Usato on May 5th, just the other day, May 5th, 2025. And here's the theme of the article. No one should be forced to worship in a way that he finds unacceptable or be made to choose between his beliefs and his family. Jehovah's Witness publication, Awake, July 6th, 2009, page 29. So there you have it. Even in their own words, they're saying the way it should be, but it's not that way. No one should be made to choose. But yet, what do? Okay, so I'm going to try to read through this. Let the article speak for itself. This is Aaron and Yana's words. And Miss Usato put this together, so I might cut in a little bit here and there, but I'll try not to. So here we go. The article goes on to say, trying to explain why you're leaving the Jehovah's Witness organization to those still inside is like speaking 2 different languages. So if you're PMO out there, you know what that means. You know what this is all about. You're in the Kingdom Hall, but you know the truth. The truth is that it's not good. It's not a good religion, right? And how do you get out? So it's like speaking 2 different languages. One's built on freedom and the other is on fear. And that's why people are PMO. Now, for many, especially born-ins, it's not just a matter of walking away from a religion. It's leaving behind the entire identity, a community, and often your own family. So the emotional weight is staggering. And that's why for one couple, the only path forward was full transparency. They didn't sneak out quietly. They disassociated publicly on their own terms. So there would be no rumors, no slander or guessing, just their truth, spoken out loud for everyone to hear. The following article features Aaron and his wife Yana, now former Jehovah's Witnesses, as they share their story on leaving the organization, including interview, questions, and their public disassociation letter, which they read to their Jehovah's Witness family members, then posted for all to see. and we highlight the importance of your life being steered by your choices and decisions. It's also another inspiring angle on how you can leave the organization without the fear of being misjudged, with your intentions aligning with your beliefs, and however loudly you would like to present them. Now, their public letter wasn't just a farewell, but a clear, composed statement rooted in evidence and personal experience. And it didn't come from a place of rebellion, sin, or bitterness. It came from clarity. That's where it came from, clarity. And that's exactly why I chose to share it publicly on Avoid JW. And that's Miss Usato speaking, and me speaking too. So for anyone who struggles to explain their reasons for leaving to loved ones still inside the organization, this letter may offer words you've been searching for. It addresses the contradictions in the Watchtower teachings, the mishandling of CSA cases, and other troubling issues, all supported by real-life events and sourced material without sounding like a typical apostate rant that Jehovah's Witnesses fear so much. From a rising star to feeling the shift. From rising star to feeling the shift. Aaron was born and raised in the Jehovah's Witness organization by a single mother, the youngest of 4. He had no choices but to absorb the life of a witness from the beginning. And his older siblings were viewed as spiritual examples, and by the time he was 6 years old, he was already giving talks from the platform. Could you imagine that, 6 years old, giving talks from the platform? And at 10, he was begging to get baptized at 10 years old. And that's kind of how the organization pushes these young kids now. But he was told to wait until he was 12 to get baptized. And at 18, he was appointed a ministerial servant. And by the age of 20, he was delivering public talk outlines across congregations while occasionally serving as auxiliary pioneer. And to most, he was a rising star. At 20, he married his first wife, who was 18 years old, like many young witnesses, and they decided to marry to maintain moral purity. But after 9 years, their marriage ended in divorce, and after a decade of faithful service, his divorce, even with scriptural grounds, it triggered silent judgment and cold stares from others. And he eventually remarried to a Jehovah's Witness named Yana. And though he remained in good standing and was never reproved or disfellowshipped, something had shifted. That experience of cold judgment eroded his enthusiasm for reaching out to others. He didn't want a title anymore. He just wanted authenticity, something he was beginning to realize the congregation couldn't offer. 8 years into a second marriage, they found themselves expecting their first child. He was 38 and she was 30. And people in various congregations, they had taken notice. They were the couple who made it 8 years without kids, a rarity in the witness world. And the sisters in their hall began planning a baby shower. And his wife, a first-time mother, was genuinely touched. But something deeper was brewing in him, something that would change everything. Out of nowhere, a shift happened. And the subheading says, it was like I was out of the trance and could see what it really was. And yet thousands around me couldn't see it. So it's just like he woke up. So here's what he says. Aaron, he says, I've been feeling for a few months that this might not be the truth, and honestly, it scared me. What did these feelings mean? Was I headed to be in disfellowship because my weak faith would allow Satan to succeed at pulling me into sins? I knew that if a person's supposed faith was weak, they would not stay in the truth. So if your faith is weak, you won't stay in the truth. And he says, then we were at the 2015 convention, the 2015 convention. He says it was like manipulation, mind control, and programming were super obvious to me in every single talk. So he says he shared it with Yana. And this was a spiritual and emotional wake-up call. No apostate websites, no outside influence, just Aaron's gnawing realization. He tried to dismiss it, but he couldn't. Driven by fear, he looked for a safe and accurate information. And he stumbled onto something he wasn't prepared for. The 2015 Australian Royal Commission hearing on child sexual abuse with Jehovah's Witnesses. All the footage was public, all the testimony was recorded. Aaron binge-watched every minute. Night turned into morning. Tears followed. The leaders he had revered were not just negligent, they were lying. The governing body member Jeffrey Jackson had taken the stand and denied the rules that every witness lived by. That was the breaking point. He woke Yana up in tears, Aaron. He says, I showed it all to her. I started searching for proof of what I somehow already knew, but it couldn't be apostate material. My trained mind wouldn't have allowed it. No matter how strongly I felt it, I never touched apostate content in my life. And looking back, I realize I knew without logically knowing, because it came from my heart, my higher self, God, intuition, something spiritual and invisible. And that's exactly why the mind didn't trust it. We were being trained never to trust that part of ourselves. The mind is what's controlled. The heart, the higher self, that's what's free and powerful. The veil was lifted. There was no going back. Aaron knew then that he would have to leave for good, and that his child would never grow up in the new system. So these are different cases. This is case study on Jehovah's Witnesses, Angus Stewart questioning the governing body members in the Australian Royal Commission. And this is Justice Peter McLennan in July 2015 at the Commission, public hearing into the allegations of child sex abuse and Jehovah's Witnesses. And then here's a picture of the governing body member, Jeffrey Jackson, contradicting statements from the JW Broadcasting to his testimony in the Australian Royal Commission. So we've ran some videos on that. Many people have. It was an eye-opener. Now, the next subheading reads, you can't half leave a high control group. You're either in or you're free. You're in or you're free. I like how they put that. The timing was complicated when Aaron and Yana started waking up. The baby shower the sisters in their congregation were planning was just days away, one last display of love from a community that would soon shun them. His wife needed that moment, so they made a decision. They would wait until after the shower, let them show love, even if it was temporary. She deserved to be celebrated, even if the love may not be real. Aaron, he says, we quickly realized that you can't half leave a high control group. You're either in or free. And the moment the shower ended, they prepared their exit. But they weren't going to slink away in silence, given the elders a blank canvas to paint their story. No way. They wrote a heartfelt letter explaining their departure, not just to the elders, but to everyone. They decided to read it face to face to their Jehovah's Witness family members, and then they posted it publicly on Facebook, not to start a war, but to speak truthfully with love and sorrow, before the congregation could twist their exit into a local needs warning. And when they posted the letter, the fallout was swift. Over 1,000 friends on Facebook vanished one by one, minute by minute, until virtually no one was left. Aaron, he says, we kept refreshing the browser, seeing the numbers of the followers keep dropping, no likes or emojis, and it was somehow entertaining. Only one person messaged us, and that could have been traumatic or devastating to watch. However, because we were aligned and doing it from the heart, we were at peace with our decision and the result. So the result was that they lost all their friends on Facebook, one by one. And that's Yana, pregnant with her first child shortly before leaving the organization. Okay, so that was in 2015. Aaron, he says, we posted the letter on Thursday, September 17th, 2015, at or about the time our congregation service meeting would end, to provide maximum exposure on Facebook before the elders could announce at the next service meeting. We also sent a one-line email to one of our elders stating we no longer want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's interesting. They sent a one-line email to one of the elders saying we no longer want to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And they were not worth any more than that. We called in and listened to the meeting, and when they announced us, they said that we had disassociated ourselves. We also heard that they had a special local needs part afterwards, but it ended the call before it. And below is a letter Aaron and Yana posted on Facebook highlighting some of the organization's most blatant contradictions. The blue links reveal some of the evidence Aaron explains in the post. So the Facebook post that changed everything, Aaron and Yana on Facebook 2015. Here's what they have. CNN covered a 2-week-long hearing in which Watchtower Bible and Tract Society was subpoenaed to stand before the Australia Royal Commission regarding why over 1,006 accused child molesters were never reported to the authorities. So, folks, I'm going to post this link to this article, and if you're using it, there is links here. The blues are links. I pulled up a few links on some of this. Let me see, what do we have? We have one here, CNN. 1,000 plus Jehovah's Witnesses named as child abusers, hundreds of Jehovah's Witnesses accused. And then there was the Australian Royal Commission failed to report 1,006 alleged child. There's another article here. And then there's a video here where Jeffrey Jackson actually did his testimony, and he lied to the court to make himself look good. So then they come back to JW Oregon, they say another thing. And there's also a link here to Aaron, about Aaron. He's an author of a book. It's called Unbounded, Empath, Soul Mirror, Author, A Journey to Your Within. It looks like a very interesting book. I was reading a little bit of the preface, the book synopsis. But anyways, you guys, you'll have all those links from this one link. So I'm going to give you this one link, and you just click on the blue ones and it'll open up all these other links. Okay, so let's dive into this letter and see what it has to say. Okay, so they told CNN they put in their letter this CNN thing with the links. They would have had all these links when they did their Facebook, right? And they were they can't deny that. That's not fake news, the Australian Commission, right? It's all there. So the hearing went from July 27th to August 14th, 2015. And you really should watch all the videos. Jeffrey Jackson, the current governing body member, Rodney Spinks, head of the service desk, and Vincent Toole Legal are questioned along with the testimonies of victims. And this is all in his letter, folks. And he goes on to say, to be clear, Yana and I are in good standing. We have done nothing wrong and are in no trouble with elders or the organization. We were expecting to see an excellent defense of our faith. And to our shock and heartache, all of these brothers, especially governing body member Jeffrey Jackson, flat out lied and disavowed several of our beliefs and practices. And there's a link there to that. That's the talk of Jeffrey Jackson I showed you guys. Now, he goes on to say, additionally, local elders of the congregation of the accused were questioned and put under the bus for following Watchtower procedures, and many now face charges. Yeah, elders going to jail because they're following the Watchtower. Amongst other things, Brother Jackson actually denied believing the governing body is God's only approved channel of communication. He stated, he says, I think it would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using on earth, which he knows that's the truth, or he's lying. So what is he? Either way, they're liars, because they've told Jehovah's Witnesses for 150 years that they're the sole organization to God. But yet they can't say that in court. They lie. So what is it? So it goes on to say in this letter to his congregation, he says, these high-ranking officials of the organization and local elders are cross-examined with the Elders Book, the OD Book, and of course the Bible scriptures by the Australian Royal Commission, and it's all laid bare. They cover a wide range of topics far beyond the main issue of child molestation, including organizational separatism and national political neutrality, birthdays and holidays, inactivity, disfellowshipping, and a few other topics. Jeffrey outright lies and dodges of clear beliefs and customs every JW would know made us sick to our stomachs. Yana and I then did what our own literature recommends in the Awake of October 22nd, 73, entitled Reasonable Persons Agree that only fair method is to examine the evidence on both sides, and both for and against disputed theory. And that's how one arrives at the truth. So this is what their Awake magazine says: examine evidence on both sides so you can figure out the truth. And that's what they did, so they said that. So we researched at the library, encyclopedias, new outlets, Google, sadly, but we found was much worse and more significant than the shocking video testimonies. We learned appalling facts that are verifiably public record, most which are substantiated by our own publications like Watchtower Awake and various yearbooks, and a small sampling of well-documented and irrefutable facts are. So this is kind of some of the stuff here that they have in this here thing. Number one, the Watchtower and the Bible Tract Society are legal, and they're involved in governmental affairs. For example, they have been members of the United Nations since 1992 and renewed members annually until 2001. After being exposed in 2001 for fear of JW fallout, they relinquished membership. Number two, founder Pastor Charles Russell was an Adventist and also aligned with Freemasonry. He also wrote the president several letters regarding random nationalistic and even racist political affairs, selling the Philippines as an example. And number three, there are document letters from the second Watchtower president, J.F. Rutherford, to Hitler, aligning with Hitler against the Jews. And this was even documented in the yearbook of 1934 and 1974, both of which reference this letter. Yet we are told not to support any military or salute any flags. And then we go to the next part. He says, the Watchtower built a 10-bedroom mansion in San Diego in 1929, called it Beth Sarum, where they believed Abraham, Isaac, and other ancient faithful men would be resurrected and would live by 1930. Google it. And this is one of a mere 30-plus crazy and strong date predictions of events that never happened, and new stories are invented in their place to keep people believing. And then he goes on to say in number 5, JWs are the only people on earth that say Jerusalem was destroyed in 607 BCE, despite all other historians, many even quoted by Watchtower as references on other topics, and encyclopedias saying Jerusalem was destroyed in 586 and 587 BCE. Well, we personally verified in 14 encyclopedias, and yet Watchtower arbitrarily selected and holds to 607, purely to save face and to rationalize misproclamations that the world would end in 1914. And then the world did not end in 1914. The proclamation was changed to 1914, marks the beginning of the end of the world. So you get that, folks? So when the end didn't come in 1914, they changed it And they said, well, 1914 marks the beginning of the end of the world. You see how they do that? And even worse, Charles Taze Russell originally arrived upon 1914 through pyramidology, pyramid study, right? Before picking 607 as a destruction of Jerusalem. And prior to 1914, they incorrectly predicted the last days began in 1799 and start of Jesus' presence in 1874. Russell actually sold all of his stores in preparation for it. And Jesus became king in heaven in 1878. And more recently, another two prominent dates of the 30-plus wrong date predictions were 1975 and 2000, whereby in our own literature emphatically stressed, and let's see if I can get to the next one, stressed the end would come in 1975. Jehovah's famously predicted the end would come in 1975, and later hinted it could happen by the year 2000, as published in the Watchtower, 1980, October 15th, page 31, 1984, March 1st, page 18 to 19, and 1989, January 1st to page 12. So you guys have some homework to do. And the nation shall know that I am Jehovah, page 216. And if Jesus failed to perform miracles, no one would believe he was the Messiah. So why does the organization get a pass for repeatedly getting it wrong? He nailed it. Number 6. Over 1,000 accused child molesters were never reported to the police, all to protect Jehovah's name. Instructions for elder focus on how to comfort the accused, not the victims. And this horrifying reality was laid bare in the Australian Royal Commission hearings, and now all over the world. And you got that point, folks? They have instructions for elders to focus how to comfort the accused, the pedophile, not the victims. The victims, a lot of times, they lose all their privileges and they get victimized by the elders and the congregation. Now, number 7, we watched the Australian Royal Commission even teach Jeffrey Jackson. We watched the Australian Royal Commission even teach Jeffrey Jackson the Bible. And that's a fact. And on the topic of two witnesses being required for a matter to be considered factual, actionable from a corrective perspective, the scriptural account of a woman being raped in the wilderness with no witnesses still resulting in the stoning of the accused, the pedophile. And the Royal Commission reasoned with Jackson that Jesus might not have concluded the two-witness rule is not absolute, and that certainly it should not be required in the case of child molestation, as such conditions would never be satisfied. You see, the Jehovah's Witnesses think other people don't know the Bible, but they do. It's a death penalty for a pedophile in the Old Testament. It's very serious. So why are they going to all these visitations to visit these pedophiles in prison? Jesus went to visit his own brothers in prison. Not the pedophiles, I'm sorry. So 1,000 cases were never reported. After the questionnaire pointed this application out, Jeffrey Jackson actually said that the substance of, we will give consideration to adjusting. That's what he told them. And he said, and since when does the governing body get enlightened on the scriptural interpretation reasoning by others? Much less non-believers. So this would wake someone up. And number 8, blood. Prior to 1945, Watchtower supported blood transfusions. Prior to 1945. And in 1945, all blood transfusions were banned, including fractions. Yes, fractions were around in 1945. And since 2000, these fractions were allowed again as a conscious decision. But God does not change. So who is responsible for all that died when the governing body was under the impression that all blood, including fractions, should be abstained? What if life over death? Jesus talks about life over death. Breaking laws when it comes to life over death. he challenged the Pharisees on that. He says, is it not written that if a kid falls in the well or a lamb falls in the well, you can break the Sabbath. You can go to work and save them, life over death. So this blood thing, if it's life over death, they're blood guilty, the Watchtower, for thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of deaths over the last 100 years. Well, since 1945. Do the math. Now, number 9, there are many more. The bottom line, after over 30 years for me and 8 years for Yana, wholeheartedly believing in the truth, it is painfully clear the organization is a complete fraud, is deceitful, and ironically is responsible for so much pain, suffering, and manipulation of honest-hearted people. It all makes sense now. We often talk about how the truth has power to transform lives, yet apparently the slave thinks the truth is so weak that they have planted in us a morbid fear of looking at anything that the Watchtower org did not publish, for fear that a single text could instantly take you out. Okay, so those were the 9 points on the contradictions within the organization's teachings. They were brought out in Aaron and Yana's Facebook post. So that's powerful. So after Aaron, we're going to start reading here. After Aaron and Yana made these points, they finished their post saying, hence, after many tears and with heavy hearts, we can no longer have anything to do with this organization in good conscience. We will be submitting our formal letter of disassociation tomorrow. We still love our well-intentioned family and friends, but however, out of courtesy and respect for your beliefs, we will be unfriending all JWs over the next week to allow our friends sufficient time to see this post. Now, if you wish to refriend or contact us, you certainly may do so. Please refrain from encouraging us to reconsider, especially before you have listened to the eye-opening testimony of your governing body members or member, other leaders and elders. And likewise, we do not want to convince others to leave the organization. We are publicly disassociating ourselves instead of remaining and trying to persuade others secretly. We also chose to disassociate publicly to mitigate any speculation on what we may have done to no longer be one of Jehovah's Witnesses. You know, folks, a lot of times, they just make an announcement and then everyone's wondering. You can't ever find out because you can't talk to the disassociated people are treated exactly the same as disfellowship people. They're not to be talked to. So someone leaves, you can never get the full story. So this is brilliant, getting your story out and taking away all that speculation. Now, they go on to say, again, to our friends and beloved family, we love you dearly. We did not want this, in capital letters. We did not want this. Additionally, the timing of the learning about the publicized events in Australia and subsequent facts is quite challenging with our new edition, but we cannot hide from or ignore the reality and what we now fully comprehend. And ironically, on our own July 2009 Awake, page 29 says, no one should be forced to worship in a way that he finds it unacceptable, or be made to choose between his beliefs and his family. So that's what Jehovah's Witnesses' own magazine says. And the article goes on to say, yet we all know this is a hypocritical statement. Yes, it is. Because the Watchtower organization, aka the slave, absolutely makes us choose. We must understand that the strong beliefs of those who remain in the organization, even after watching these testimonies and learning other facts, will mean we must become dead to you. Namely, that You will no longer speak to or have anything to do with us. So we will not take this personally. Everyone must decide for him or herself and be entitled to the freedom of living based on the principles and beliefs that they hold dear, even as our own literature states. Love, Aaron and Yana. I like how they used their own literature. How can they deny that? The Wake said that. No one should be forced to worship in a way that is unacceptable or choose beliefs over his family. But yet, Watchtower makes you choose their belief over your family. If your family is disassociated, you can't talk to them. Watchtower makes sure of that. That's just how it is. So, okay, let's carry on. The letters aftermath. We know of 5 witnesses who woke up after our letter. What were your family's reactions to the letter? Aaron says, Yana was very nervous that she would lose her mother, but something told me, I don't know if it's intuition or God, that she would stay in Yana's life no matter what. So we read her the letter, and she took it pretty well. But after we posted it for all to see, brothers and sisters who hardly ever spoke to her suddenly started swarming, visiting, and calling her. That and the fakery that she had always experienced in the congregation confirmed it. So she sent a 1-sentence letter disassociating herself as well. How do you like that? What a feat. So Yana's mother, she woke up through this. Well, what about your mother? This is Aaron's mother. He says, being a devout witness for 50 years, we have seen her a total of 4 times in the last 9.5 years. 4 times. When we read her the letter, she responded, yeah, but Aaron, don't leave. And then she said, read me those reasons you mentioned again. I'm going to look them all up. Yet we never discussed it again. And when our son was born, a month later in October, she never acknowledged or came to see us. A few months later, she called us and said, I want to see Colton when he's old enough to remember me. That was her saying, I'm fine not seeing him now, but I want to be recognized as a grandma when I do break the rules. And Yana and I told her, no way. If you can't treat him and us with real love, he will not be taught that you are his grandmother until he's older. Good on you. Why should the JWs get? We can disassociate them, folks. They're supporting and contributing to child abuse, cover-ups. All the JWs out there. They're contributing to real estate. It's not a religion. There's no humanitarian good done. It's all real estate. Now, you're challenging me on the humanitarian stuff? Well, here's the thing. They get all the insurance from all the brothers and sisters, and they make more money, and then they get all the free labor out of the brothers and sisters. 60% of the job is labor, 40% is materials. The insurance company pays 100%. They make 60% on every job that they fix, and they might have to swallow their kingdom halls because they're self-insured. So that's how it is. They're not doing humanitarian work. Now, sorry I got off the article. I promised I wouldn't do that too much. Now, here's her mother was saying, I'm fine not seeing him now, but I want to be recognized as grandma. So they said, no, if you can't treat us with real love and him, he's not even going to be taught that you're his grandma until he's older. So where he can grasp why his own grandma has been non-existent, that's when they'll explain the JW thing. So you'll be an acquaintance of his parents, and we will not be breaking a toddler's heart explaining why his grandma wants nothing to do with us. The last time we saw her, we got on the topic about love, and I told her that the organization preaches that they are all about love, but they strip it away, making it worse than all of the false religions out there. And I agree with that 100%. Okay, the next question is, did any other family members or friends reach out or keep in contact? They say initially none at first. Aaron's older sister was a pioneer and an elder's wife. They never spoke to him again. And neither did his oldest brother until 9 years later. And his middle brother and his wife left the organization after Aaron and Yana, but they just recently started talking to them from time to time. And Aaron says a week before the shower, we broke the news to one friend, a sister, telling her we planned to post our letter after the shower, which she'd also be attending. She was shocked. We'd always been pillars in the congregation, and she loved us. She responded, she says, "I'm still going to be in your lives no matter what." So we gently told her, "We get it and feel the love, but please don't do that to yourself. You can't live in both worlds. It'll tear you apart." And she insisted, "No, it won't. You'll see. I'll stay in your life." Well, I knew better and prepped Yana for what was coming. Sure enough, she held on as long as she could until she couldn't anymore, resulting in shunning us. That's basically what we expected with everyone. And since our last post, we found out that 5 Jehovah's Witnesses were disassociated or disfellowshipped soon after reading our post. One couple reached out and said our post deeply moved and catalyzed them. And they fully accepted it was a cult, and they left the organization shortly after us too. So here's some pictures of Aaron and Yana with their kids. Aaron and Yana now with their 3 kids. They have now. And they say here, we have no regrets. So what is more difficult? What was it more difficult to post this letter on Facebook or to read your disassociation letter to your family members? Post it on Facebook or to read it to your family. I'd say it'd be harder to read to your family members, because when you post it, it's just blip, you hit a button and it just posts it, right? The family members is a little more personable. Well, let's see what they say. Aaron says neither. Actually, he says, in hindsight, I now know I had no problem telling anybody because it was my real truth and it was prompted from the heart. So why do you feel posting your letter publicly was the best route? Aaron says, we wanted every friend and loved one to know firsthand why we left, our true love for them, and that we held no animosity, which, if disfellowship, they would have either heard through rumors or assumed the worst. That's smart. And we wanted them to see firsthand that we were of the sane mind, a sound mind. We're not demon-possessed and still had love, instead of a person who disassociates being depicted as demonic. That's what they did with me. They depicted me as demonic and insane and misled for leaving Jehovah. That's what they do to people. That's how they do it. He says, lastly, we wanted everyone to have the opportunity to see with their own eyes that this organization is a fraud without having to see anything apostate. Yeah, they didn't reference any apostate videos. Now, here's the next question. How is your family today, and do your kids know what you guys went through? Aaron says, our oldest is 9 and knows nothing about any of this. And as far as they are concerned, we have always been free. They assume we are closer to Yana's side of the family, and we'll explain everything as soon as he is mature enough to comprehend. But they do not fully understand we are spiritual, not religious. And ironically, they see how some of their friends from devout Christians, example Catholic families, seem enslaved and owned by customs and compulsion and beliefs. So our oldest also knows the difference between spiritual and religious. And the girls are 4 and 6, and so they understand this too. And 5 years after leaving the organization, Aaron wrote and released a book, Unbounded Journey to Your Within, and that was the one I showed you, the cover right here. This is his book. So again, the link is right here in this Avoid JW article. So that's where you'll have to get it. So he wrote this book about navigating the high fidelity journey to your within, and to identify and remove unconscious internal conflicts and decode your most authentic expression and maximize your purpose and fulfillment across 4 significant areas of life. That's self, love, and relationships, money, and work. So I think with that book, he was on CBS, ABC, NBC, Fox. This book really took off. Yeah, there's a lot of information here on Aaron. So it's an interesting read even from there. But just to carry on here, this is what the book was. So Aaron says, as empaths, over the past 10 years, we have deliberately dodged everything about the organization because we knew we would see and feel so much suffering and wanted to raise our vibration and grow. So after leaving, we were free, at peace, and with no animosity whatsoever toward anyone, including family I lost or even the cult itself. And for we took nothing personal and understood. They understood it all. And nearly 10 years later, we find ourselves drawn to help anyone on their journey to their truth. That is our goal now. Stories like these help others to realize that there are always ways to leave the organization. It's the realization that, no, you are not leaving to torture, humiliate, or to hurt your loved ones. You are not being selfish or wanting to leave. You are your commander, and only you should be able to control your narrative. Aaron and Yana's story has touched more than just 5 Jehovah's Witnesses, and it's encouraging to see that they took the steps needed to be at peace with their decision to go public. Every step you make towards bettering yourself and growing counts. You are the process. Dear Jehovah's Witnesses, we're done. Well, if you're close to being done, I hope this video has inspired you. Thanks for listening. And thanks to Aaron and Yana for letting your story be heard. And thanks to Miss Usato for sharing that with us all. So if you're someone who's left, or if you're thinking about leaving, know that you're not alone. There's a growing number of us finding our voices, reclaiming our lives, and telling the truth. So feel free, share your story in the comments, and as always, keep living your life with love. We'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.